Terrible thing. We all saw what we saw. It should never happen, should never be allowed to happen, a thing like that. We have peaceful protesters and support the rights for peaceful protesters. We can't allow a situation like happened in Minneapolis to descend further into lawless anarchy and chaos, and we understand that very well. Memory of George Floyd be a perfect memory. Let it be a perfect memory. The looters should not be allowed to drown out the voices of so many peaceful protesters. They hurt so badly what is happening, and it's so bad for the state and for that great city. But the family of George is entitled to justice, and the people of Minnesota are entitled to live in safety. Law and order will prevail. The Americans will honor the memory of George and the Floyd family. It's very important to us. It's very important to me to see that everything is taken care of properly. It's a horrible, horrible situation.
Oh, when I first heard about it and when I first saw the video, of course, I was very, 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 very upset that a human life was literally taken right before our very eyes, to the point where I literally saw evil personified, evil, hate, prejudice, and race personified, like in a person's form. And it literally outraged me as well, to the point where I understand why people would resort to that type of looting and that type of vandalism. I don't believe that's always the answer, but I understand the rage. Because when you watch the video and you hear the pleas of Mr. Floyd saying, hey, I can't breathe, and then you hear the people around saying, hey, he can't breathe, his nose is bleeding. Isn't that a little too much? You just hear the voices of people around, and sometimes it's like, if you can't hear George saying, I can't breathe, and you can't hear the people saying this is a little bit too much, maybe you'll hear, the sound of me busting the window out of the car. Maybe I'll...
Once again, we had the words, heard the words, and they heard them. I can't breathe. An act of brutality so elemental, it did more than deny one more black man in America his civil rights and his human rights. It denied him of his very humanity. It denied him of his life. In weeks like this, we see it plainly that we're a country with an open wound. And none of us can turn away. None of us can be silent. None of us can any longer can we hear the words, I can't breathe, and do nothing. We can't fail victims like, what Martin Luther King called the appalling silence of good people. Every day African Americans go about their lives with a constant anxiety and trauma, wondering, who'll be next? Imagine if every time your husband or son, wife or daughter left the house, you feared for their safety from bad actors and bad police. This is no time for incendiary tweets. It's no time to encourage violence. This is a national crisis. We need real leadership right now. Leadership that will bring everyone to the table so we can take measures to root out systemic racism. Got to make real the promise America, which you've never fully grasped, that all men and women are equal, not only in creation, but throughout their lives.
Day to day. I don't know why today is the tough day. But I know why, but it's like yesterday I was just mad, like red mad. And then last night it was like tough to sleep. And I'm happy that it's actually bothering us to the way it is now, because that's when action happens. But we have to have a way to move together, if that makes any sense. Like, we need a way to move together, because if we move and we're just acting out of all this anger and madness and emotion, we have to be collected and unified. But this is years upon years of oppression and depression, and it's so deeply rooted, and that's why it's just we're having a tough time with all this. It's so much trauma. Even watching it every day is trauma. What is this gonna do to us in 10 years? We're watching it. How can you not be appalled? Even if you're not Black, you should be appalled. If you're not Black, you should be moving. You should be saying something, posting something. If you have a Black kid, you know what I mean?
As a father and as a Black man and as a Christian and as a pastor, I don't know which orifice I bleed the most from. All of them are bleeding in some way tonight. I'm bleeding for our country. I'm bleeding for the Floyd family. I'm bleeding for the state that our world is in right now. My soul hemorrhages at the struggle for justice and the fight for empathy. I probably should say, and I know this is probably going to be unpopular with a lot of people, I'm all for demonstrating and protesting. Sometimes it's the only way to get attention. Protesting comes when people have exhausted every means within their grasp to do, and then they take to the streets and protest. But I'm against the violence, and I'm against the looting. And I'm against it not only because I think it's morally wrong, but I think it's counterproductive to the conversation that the nation needs to be focused on is what happened to Ahmaud, what happened to George Floyd, what happened to so many people. The list goes on and on of people. And now we're talking about rioting and burning buildings, and that's a distraction from what we need to be focused on in this country.
We need justice for George Floyd. We all witnessed his murder in broad daylight. We're broken and we're disgusted. We cannot normalize this pain. And I'm not only speaking to people of color. If you're white, Black, brown, or anything in between, I'm sure you feel hopeless by the racism going on in America right now. No more senseless killings of human beings. No more seeing people of color as less than human. We can no longer look away. George is all of our family in humanity. He's our family because he's a fellow American. There have been too many times that we've seen these violent killings and no consequences. Yes, someone's been charged, but justice is far from being achieved. Please sign the petition and continue to pray for peace and compassion and healing for our country. Thank you so much.
We see the kind of destruction that is taking place in our streets. We know those are not our organizers. We know those are not our protesters. We know those are not the people who are grieving the lives that have been taken from our community. Because we all know that we have collectively fought for business development to take place on Lake Street. Every single meeting that Ray and Jeff and I have been in has been to invest in minority-owned businesses in our communities, to develop this corridor and make our community a more equitable one. So when you see a destruction to one of the most valued business corridors for minority communities in Minneapolis being destroyed, you know those are not minorities that are doing that destruction. And so I wanted to make it clear. When we say outsiders, I don't care whether that people understand it to mean that it is people from outside of Minneapolis or not. What we mean is those are not our people. Those are not the people who are grieving in the ways that we are grieving. Those are not the people who are interested in helping get justice for George Floyd. Those are not the people who are interested in making sure that our communities continue to thrive. Those are not the people who are feeling the pains of African American mothers in our community. These are not the people who are living with the fears that I live with on what to happen with my son. If you care, again, about Black lives, you cannot set a fire in Minneapolis risking Black can take it to the streets. We can blow up the phones of the people that represent you. But what we cannot do is start a fire that can take lives.
There needs to be immediate consequences. That man needs to be thrown in jail for life. Not in weeks, now. If it was a black man, we know he would be in jail now. And by we, I'm talking about everybody. We as people know he would be in jail. There needs to be consequences brought to the other officers that were on hand, because you got a duty to do. Your job is to save lives, not take them. Cops need to be held accountable. Jail, life. You take a life, give your life. Life. If you were on hand and you didn't stop that senseless murder from happening, you get time too. That's what a law should say.